So we are now being recorded. So the council meeting is open to the public due to the easing of public health order restrictions under the New South Wales reopening roadmap. As a result, everyone in attendance in the council chambers must adhere to the council's COVID-19 safety plan and the current restrictions, which includes QR code check-in and the wearing of masks inside the council chamber. Live streaming and recording of council meetings. This council meeting is being live streamed via YouTube and recorded and published online via council's website. To those present in the meeting today, by participating in this public meeting, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Mayor and/or General Manager have the authority to pause the live stream if comments or debate are considered defamatory, otherwise inappropriate for publishing. Participants are advised that they may be subject to legal action if they engage in unlawful behaviour or commentary. Requests for councillors to attend video conference. As per the temporary amendment, the Local Government Regulation 2021, which was extended until 30th of June 2022, while New South Wales councils adopt their new meeting codes of practice due to release of the OLG 2021 model of meeting practice. A temporary amendment exempts councils from complying with the requirements under their codes of meeting practice for councillors to be personally present at meetings to participate in them and to allow councillors to attend via audio-visual link where these facilities are available. And once resolved by council, the following councillors have requested to join the council meeting via audio-visual link. Councillor Dari Turley and Councillor Marianne Brown, and welcome to both of you. Call for a motion to accept the request for councillors Turley and Brown to attend via council meeting audio-visual link. Could we just have a mover? Move Councillor Boland, seconded Councillor Allgate. Yeah. Allgate. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. So there's nil apologies or at leaves of absence. I call for Councillor Boland to deliver the prayer.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Almighty God, we ask you to invoke your blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement and true welfare of the people of the council area, our state and Australia. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Call on Councillor Gallagher to deliver the acknowledgement of country.
Yes, I acknowledge the traditional owners upon the land upon which we meet and pay our respect to those elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Could we have a councillor move the confirmation of the minutes? Thank you.
Move that way.
Move Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor
Second
Gallagher.
that way. Okay.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Turley. So seconded Councillor Gallagher. All those in favour? Declare it carried unanimously. If either Councillor Brown or Councillor Turley are voting against, when I say it, if you could say voting against, and I'll Jay or Lisa will take notice when it's said. Otherwise, we'll just assume you're voting for, if that's all right with the two councillors. Councillor Brown and Councillor Turley. Yep.
Fine by me. Thank you.
Yep. No worries. Just be easier for minutes. Yep. Disclosures of interest. Did any councillors have any disclosures of interest? That's nil disclosures of interest. We have nil mayoral minutes, nil notices of motions, nil rescission motions, nil reports from delegates. We now go on 2 reports. So for everyone in the gallery, the reports are in the business paper. These are the main things we're dealing with now. So it'll be from, I think it's about from 1 to 9 or something like that. So you'll be able to keep up. So when I say item 1, it'll be the first report that councillors are talking about and so on. So could we have a mover or a seconder,
I'll
a
move.
mover for item 1?
I'll move the recommendation as written, Mr. Mayor.
Move, councillor Allgate. Do we have a seconder for that? Seconded, councillor Gallagher. Thank you,
Sorry,
councillor
Mayor.
Gallagher. Would you like to speak to that, councillor Allgate?
Yes, Mayor Kennedy. I'd just like to point out that the general manager, as far as I'm concerned, has done an extremely good job in addressing the mayoral minutes. There's 7 pages of mayoral minutes that are being responded to by the general manager, and the responses and the timeline appear to be exceptional. There's a power of work to be done. All of those individual items are items that we put forward as part of our election campaign, and we're committed to carrying them out within the budget constraints that the council has. But it's important that, as far as I'm concerned, we recognise the general manager's got off to a really good start, and I thank him for that.
Would you like to add that to your recommendation?
Certainly,
Councillor Allgate.
more than happy.
Would you accept that, councillor Gallagher?
Most definitely.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
most definitely.
No worries. Any speakers against? Look, it's a lengthy resolution, and I think there's some important things in there. And I'm going to just temporarily suspend the standing orders, because I know there's a number of councillors that would like to briefly speak on some of those matters. Councillor Deputy Jim Hickey.
Yes, Mayor Kennedy. I'd like to endorse what Bob said about the General Manager has done a great job. I see the $6 million being transferred back to our general revenue account, which is pretty important from the library hub has moved. As we said, if the federal government grant on the library doesn't come through as a whole, well, then we'll come back with a better plan, another plan, see how much they'll give us, put it to the general public then for consultation. But the whole of the Broken Hill will get a say in what we do with it, and that's where we're moving that. Workshops have been held by the general manager explaining, the civic centre litigation and things like that. That's already been done to it for us to follow up, and so that all new councillors follow where we're at, which is great. Also, general manager's also organised for a tour of the Imperial Lake, and that already it's got that all time stamped and everything like that. So for the councillors to go and see what's happening there, which is another great move. So I'd like, as I say, endorse what Bob said, and well done, Councillor Allgate said, well done.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jim Hickey. There was some other councillors, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Item number 10, the Regional Tourist Association. Really looking forward to seeing what comes about from that. Tourism is a really important place in Broken Hill, and being a cohesive group that we are targeting the tourism dollar and really promoting the city will be great. My many times working in Sydney, when they hear you from Broken Hill, they get very, very excited. And they've always got a funny story of a camel drinking beer or a kangaroo walking down the street. And I think that association will certainly improve tourism in Broken Hill. Point 22 with the tip gate charges, I think that's a great thing to look at, removing those tip charges, the gate charges. I always remember back many, many years ago that the tip gate charges were always zero in Broken Hill because it's so easy to dump on the outskirts of the city, and we certainly don't want our ratepayers and our residents looking at that driving into the city, and certainly not our tourists either. It's certainly not a good look. And lastly, again, thank you to the General Manager. Your introducing the new councillors to how the operation rolls. The Local Government Act is quite a meaty piece of legislation. And we've had plenty of workshops, and every time we've had a workshop, the general manager has absolutely explained everything down to a T and has made learning the ropes as a new councillor absolutely not easy. I won't use the word easy, but certainly an easier process. And I thank you for your effort, especially with the new councillors. Always got an ear to assist us, and I thank you for your effort over the past couple of months.
Any other councillors would like to make comment? Councillor Jewett.
I'd also like to speak on part 8 with the signs. I'm pretty excited to see some new signs come. I think the people were maybe a little disappointed from what I've heard with ones we have. I think they could probably be reused and placed elsewhere, maybe line of load, I'm not sure, but I think it'd be exciting to see some really nice welcoming signs to Broken Hill.
Thank you, Councillor Jewett. Anyone else? I will.
Yep, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. You're meant to. Jay was meant to. Oh, sorry. The general manager was meant to be keeping an eye on that, Councillor Brown.
Just to comment, it's really just a question of how the business is managed, but it's always been my understanding that suspension of standing orders needs a vote from council.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. You are probably right. So could we just have, even though we've already done it, we're about to move on, could we have a mover for that? Move Councillor Boland, seconded Councillor Page. All those in favour? Anyone against? No. So thank you, Councillor Brown. So now we will, no other councillor would like to speak before we put the motion?
Might just make.
Oh, yeah, right, a reply, Councillor Allgate, sorry.
Make a comment, Mayor Kennedy. There are 40 items on this list, and they're all of equal importance as far as our team is concerned. But I'd just like to comment that one of the issues that has been raised with us a lot in this past since we were elected, and even before when Councillor Kennedy, well, Mayor Kennedy and I were elected, and that's item 25, the matter that deals with Council's Policy and General Committee, which will be a standing committee of the Council sometime in February, which is going to deal with all rates across the community. I think we all know that the business people in town are doing it terribly tough. Some businesses are struggling to make ends meet. And Canada Road people, they've voiced their opinion. The industrial area out there, they have big problems and they need to be addressed. If you look at the rate system overall, there is an enormous disparity of and wide variation in costs for the same type of blocks. And we have to do something about correcting that, because those that live in the so-called better areas of town, where the land values are much higher, and that applies in terms of industrial as well, those people are paying, more than their fair share, whilst other areas of town are paying very little. And it's not going to be an easy project, but the council has to address that problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. So that's the final speaker. So all those in favour of the motion? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We now move on to item 2, just for the public gallery. It is to do with the meeting practice policy. If you have a look in your business papers, you will see that there's recommendations for a few different changes that will give better access to the community. If we could have a mover for...
I'll move the recommendation.
Move Councillor Allgate. If we could have a second.
I also need
Could we have a seconder? Councillor Gallagher?
Yes, Mayor Kennedy.
Oh, well, I suppose there's actually there's a number of sorry, Councillor.
Yeah,
sorry, Councillor Allgate.
I need to add.
Yep.
I'd like to add an item 4. I accept 1, 2 and 3, but I'd like to add item 4. And item 4 comprises,
Just before you go on, councillor Allgate, can Lisa have a copy of that when you,
yeah.
you've got one now, or you give it at the end?
I'll give it at the end.
All
Otherwise,
right, all right. No worries. So we'll move it and then we'll give,
Yeah. The addition of item 4 would consist of or comprise of the following. And it would be to delete clauses 3.30 to 3.35. They're the items noted in green print, page 129. Delete clause 5.2, the part of the clause shown in orange print that relates to audio visual on page 134. Delete clauses 5.15 to 5.29 inclusive. That being the area shown, the passages shown in orange print which relate to the holding of audio visual links and audio visual meetings on pages 135, 136 and 137. Delete clause 5.3 shown in orange print relating to the general manager and staff by audio link, page 139. Delete clause 8.102, the reference to visual audio link noted in orange on page 143. Delete clause 14.20 relating to councillors attending via audio link shown in orange print, page 152. Delete clauses 15.21 and 15.22 relating to disorder shown in orange print on page 159. Delete clause 16.2 relating to conflicts of interest in respect to councillors attending via audio link shown in red, page 161. Delete part of clause 19.2A shown in orange print, page 165. Delete part clause 20.22A shown in orange print, page 169. Remove the definitions table. Remove from the definitions table the audio visual link shown in orange print on page 172. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
thank you, councillor Allgate. You're still happy to second that, councillor Allgate? Councillor Gallagher? So
Yes,
virtually
Mayor.
what,
Yes,
yeah,
Mayor,
yeah,
I'm
councillor
just going
Gallagher.
through it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with that.
So just for councillors, what was moved was what was discussed, which was not to use audio visual link and for briefings. So it was just the two different versions that as councillors, we weren't sure what we, so councillor Allgate's just put it down in the motion. Would you like a copy of that now? Yeah, got it all. It's all right. That got it all, councillor Allgate. So would you like to speak to that, councillor Allgate?
Well, only to say that it was what we discussed at a formal meeting at the Civic Centre the other day, and it was basically agreed that this is the way we would go. And to tidy it up, I've spelled it out in point by point, so it's easier for the minutes and whatever to include it, and then you know, the final policy to be put on public display with all inclusive. And I think, you know, that's the best way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Allgate. Any speakers against? No speakers against. Oh,
yeah.
sorry, councillor. Councillor Brown and councillor Turley, if you just, when you want to just say speak against, because it'll draw the attention quicker. So if you make a verbal as well as a hand, it'll, I'm happy with that if you would like to do that. Councillor Brown?
Yes, Mayor Kennedy, we did have the workshop a week or so, a couple of weeks ago, but it wasn't a unanimous decision as to this new policy. I spoke at that workshop about my reservations about deleting the the audio visual, all of those various clauses, because I think it's an opportunity that over the years we probably would have really appreciated. I don't believe it would be abused. I think there are enough safeguards in that to limit the requests to participate by audiovisual link to real reasons. I mean, I'm not doing this by choice by any means. It's much more cumbersome, as you know, I've already illustrated, making yourself heard and so forth. It's definitely less desirable than being there in person. I just think that we do have a really valuable opportunity to do that. And I, personally, I can't really see any arguments against just having that in reserve if we need it. Anyway, that's that item. The other significant item is the briefings prior to council meetings or other ordinary meetings or extraordinary meetings. I think this is a really valuable opportunity for everyone to understand if they wish to attend. As we've experienced them before, they're not certainly have never been compulsory. You can take it or leave it. But I think for those of us who did attend, we found it a very valuable way of getting further information. It's also useful to hear the questions of our colleagues. So I just think, again, with something like this, this is a really valuable opportunity that we are, throwing away unnecessarily. I can't see the benefit. I know Mayor Kennedy has expressed concern that the briefings can be used as places of debate. That certainly hasn't been my experience. Certainly the guidelines prevent that anyway. But it is a really useful way of ensuring that we understand all the ramifications of any particular recommendation. Thanks, Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Do we have any speakers for?
I'll speak for.
Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Gallagher put his hand up first. Councillor Boland.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Councillor Allgate has said before, we did have an extensive briefing in relation to this. It wasn't debated on that day; it was just discussed, and we've come to the conclusion today this is the right way to do it. But we've looked at it, we've discussed it openly in a forum when we had a workshop, and I believe it's the way to go. It's only a minor changes, and as we all know, if it has to come back to the audio visual, the health order will overrule that. So we'll just see what we can do from there, and I commend the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Any further speakers against? You have a right of reply, Councillor Allgate.
Thank you. In respect to what Councillor Gallagher said was correct, but in respect to the comments made by Councillor Brown, in terms of attendance, if you have a look at the Local Government Act, and if you look at the Office of Local Government's model code of meeting practice, the emphasis at one particular point in terms of attendances stresses that wherever possible, every councillor should make an effort to get to the council meeting. It's really highlighted. That's what we're elected to do. We're elected to be here and say our piece if we have something to say, and I personally feel that that's the way it should be. And the other thing is that extra bit that was in there about audio visual is not mandatory. And I don't think we should bog down on things in these lengthy policies that are not mandatory. The second thing is, in terms of the briefings, I certainly didn't attend to a lot of the briefings in the past 5-year council for the very reason that a lot of those meetings, not in the current General Manager's time, but prior to that, were in many ways, I would suggest, brainwashing meetings. I made it plain to the General Manager early in the piece that I will make up my own mind about each and every issue, I don't need to be guided or encouraged to vote one particular way. But the important thing is, this council, unlike the last, we promised to bring in standing committees. Standing committees will commence, I'm not sure whether next month or the month after, but very soon. And rather than, as in the previous council, rather than having the general manager recommending to the monthly meeting of the council, providing all of the recommendations, all of the subjects, or all of the issues that are on the table at the time, those issues will be dealt with by councillors at standing committees. There'll be a health and building committee, a works committee, policy in general, and so on. So there will be representatives of the council, councillors. There will be normally a member of the director of the particular area. And the councillors will seek advice, obviously, from the staff member, the director. But in terms of the decision-making and the recommendation to the council, that will be made by the committee, by councillors, not by staff. And I think historically that's always worked. Historically, we are more open to the public. We are all open to receive delegations from people who have problems, as have been mentioned here tonight, some of those problems. Those problems in the future will probably attend the relevant standing committee, and the relevant standing committee will make a recommendation to the council. And I think that's the way it should be. Briefings, we should have all of the information that's available to a councillor in the reports that are provided to us. We shouldn't need more advice than what's in the reports. And if the information is not in the reports, well, it should be.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. That was the right of reply. Just for clarification for the gallery, some of the other things that in that meeting notice was that the gallery will be part of the council meeting. So that wasn't actually covered in the debate. So and I encourage all members of the community, make sure they read that code of meeting practice. It will be out on public display, and have your comment, have your opinion on what you believe is the right way to go. So all those in favour of the motion, Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Page, Councillor Boland, Councillor Allgate, Councillor Jewett, Councillor Chandler, Deputy Mayor Jim Hickey. All those against? Councillor Brown and Councillor Turley. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, councillors. Move on to item 3. Do we have a mover for item 3?
I will move that.
You will move that, Councillor Boland?
Yes.
Move it as written.
Move that as written. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, Councillor
Second,
Boland. Do we have a
seconded.
seconder?
Seconded.
Seconded, Councillor Allgate. Councillor Boland, would you like to speak to your motion?
Reading through the report, I think this is a great outcome for the community of Broken Hill. It's going to push the library decision back to the community with a focus around a specialised archive facility. Broken Hill is the only heritage listed town in Australia, and our archives are very, very important, and I'm very happy to see the archives project in the report. And also, you know, if the budgeted funds are there, also a refurbishment of the current library to bring it up to standards, I think is a lot better outcome for the community than a $17 to $30 million standalone building.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Just a question for you. Would you be prepared to also put in there that the local member, Mark Coulton, lobby for our proposal?
Certainly would, Mayor Kennedy.
Seconder, happy to do that.
Yeah.
So that was just an ad that Mark Coulton, our local member, actually gave a commitment that he would, if the councillors are agreeable, would help us where he could. So I think it's Very good of him. Do we have any speakers against? Councillor Brown?
I'm not speaking against Mayor Kennedy, but just I'd like to suggest maybe a small addition to the motion, which is that we include an inspection of the library and the town hall facade with the tour of council's assets and facilities that's going to take place in February.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. You happy with that, Councillor Boland?
Yes, I am, Mayor Kennedy.
Councillor Orgay, happy to continue with that? So that is added. Councillor Brown. No speakers against with the addition of what's been written there. All those in favour? Yep. That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We move on to item 4. We have a mover for item 4.
Mayor Kennedy, I'd like to move items 1 and 2.
Items 1 and 2 in the paragraphs 1 and 2 in the recommendation.
That is correct, Mayor Kennedy.
Do you have a seconder?
Yes, I'll second that, Madam.
Seconded, Councillor Allgate. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Boland?
Yes, points 1 and 2, I certainly think is very important. On point 3 that I am not moving, I think that needs to go back to the community. We need to get the community feeling around number 3, and we also need the support before we did any project like that. We need the support of the state government as well. Though it will require a lot of resources and a lot of help, and Broken Hill just doesn't have that kind of resources out here, and that's why I cannot recommend or move motion item 3 as well, point 3. So only moving 1 and 2.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Do we have a speaker against? Councillor Brown?
Yes, Mayor Kennedy. Could I just actually reading the motion doesn't request anything at all for Broken Hill. It's a motion which would have maybe relevance to the whole state, but it's only asking for more support to communities that wish to implement these strategies. So there's really no, it's not pushing Broken Hill right into something that they're not ready for. There would be many steps between this. I mean, personally, I think this is I support this this motion personally, but I am also arguing that it is a very preliminary one. It is a general motion for the whole state. I haven't seen the agenda for the special for the local government conference, but it's quite likely, I would think, that there are other motions there maybe requesting the same thing. So I'm just ask people to really consider the motion as it's written and not as you think it is. Thanks, Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Do we have any speakers for the motion? Councillor Allgate?
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with Councillor Brown, but I mean, the point 3 is that this council consider the following motion to be submitted. So if you consider it and submit it, you've got a position. You've highlighted what your stance is. I'm not personally against. For instance, one of the things that stands out in this humanitarian section is to address the possibility of refugees being settled in Broken Hill. Personally, I think that's an important thing that must be consulted with the community in the form of a public meeting or something like that, because I'm not sure that everybody wants refugees in the town. Maybe everybody does want refugees in the town. I know I'm only talking about one aspect of this, but it's a serious aspect, and it's got, as Councillor Boland said, it's got serious ramifications in terms of the services that might be needed that we haven't already got. So for that reason, I'd support the motion. I think that if you're going to put things before the local government the New South Wales Local Government Association conference, you need to be run them past the community first. And the community know nothing about this. And they're the people that we're working for.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. Any further speakers against? No. I write a reply, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I take everything on board from Councillor Allgate and Councillor Brown as well. As we know, refugees come from pretty horrendous places of the world, and when they get to Australia, they need mental health support, they need health support, they need lots and lots of support, and they need their community around them. And without the community or Broken Hill understanding or knowing exactly what we were going to the local government conference with, there's just no way those kind of the absolute tragedy that these people have been through and the help they need, there's absolutely no chance that Broken Hill or a lot of regional areas in this country, or in this state, should I say, would be able to provide these poor people with the support they need. So on that, that is why I just cannot support motion 3.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. All those in favour of the motion? Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Page, Councillor Boland, Councillor Allgate, Councillor Jewett, Councillor Chandler, Deputy Mayor Hickey. All those against? Councillor Brown and Councillor Turley, I declare the motion carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 5. Do we have a mover for that? Moved Councillor Jewett. Seconder. Moved Councillor Boland. Just for the gallery, that's item 5. It is to do with the progress and update of capital project at the EP O'Neill Memorial Park. So it's what's planned down at the netball courts, the Norm Fox Oval, etc. So Councillor Jewett.
Yeah, I'd like to move recommendations 1 through 4. I think it's fantastic. Thank you. Sorry, Mayor Kennedy. It's fantastic. The plans look amazing. The opportunities for the community, children and families, especially to those who may not have chosen to join activities, it may encourage it's just sort of new people to join. As a mum of 5, my children growing up used every single one of those facilities. To see that redeveloped to what the plans show would be just amazing for our children now and future. So I'm very excited for that. And yeah, and thank you. Commend the work that's already been done in the past 18 months towards it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jewett. Any speakers against? No speakers against. Would you like, not that there's any reply, but you've said all you need to say, Councillor Jewett? I'd just also like to, and if any council would like to comment briefly on it, but keep it brief. Would any councillor like to briefly comment on it? No, I would like to. Councillor Brown, Turley, no brief comment. I'd just like to also congratulate those involved. It does look fantastic, and I'd recommend that members of the gallery, if they get the opportunity, just look at what is proposed down there. You're looking at 12 surfaced netball courts. It really does look fantastic, and it'll be something that as a city we can be proud of. So all those in favour of the motion? Yep, carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 6. It is to do with staffing
move
numbers and budgets. Move Councillor Allgate. Seconder. Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Allgate, would you like to talk to it? Motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Kennedy. it's a comprehensive report. And I suppose the big question on my lips is, in general, how are we going to resolve this issue, this problem of staffing? I've personally, over the years, have had some concerns that long before the General Manager's time, probably 10 years ago, this council had around about 255 employees. I understand now, some 10 years later, we have 145 employees. What really surprises me is that at no time during that 10 years has there been a significant drop in the cost of employees. In other words, the wage bill, the long service, the annual leave and so on. I would have thought, personally, I would have thought that there would have been a significant decrease in the cost of, the cost of staffing. I've never seen it, and I've been a councillor in that time, and I've never seen that dramatic increase, 100 employees less. So I'm concerned about that, but I'm more concerned about the fact that we have so few outdoor staff, the people that actually do the work that the public see, like on the roads, the footpaths, the parks and so on. I mean, the people like Councillor Turley and Councillor Brown and Councillor Kennedy, we would be well aware that back 20 years ago, the council had an agreement with the BIC, the council BIC agreement, where there would always be a minimum of 117 MEU employees on the council. And those employees, the bulk of them, probably 75 or 80 of them at least, were employed at the depot in roads, gangs, cleaning the streets up, you name it. I understand now that we only have about 35 of those employees. And that's one of the reasons why the town is looking so bad as it is, because we just haven't got the outdoor staff. So I hark back to the question that I first raised, how do we resolve this issue? And I think it's going to be something that the management and the councillors are going to have to put a lot of time in to find out, a solution that's going to be that's going to be able to be recognised in the town with an improvement in the town. If you come into town on any of the entrances to town, the streets, the footpaths, particularly the footpaths and the weeds, are bloody awful. Now, to compound it, we've got dead trees everywhere. I mean, there's nothing good. Your first impressions of Broken Hill when you come in, classic is the airport. When you come in from the airport, there's 2 rows of trees, or there's 2 rows of trees on one side and 1 row on the other side, and 75% of them are dead. It's not a good impression. The welcome sign is it really needs painting. The it's Pro Heart Way, and the only way we know it's the Pro Heart Way is because there's a small street sign. And there's so many things that we need to address, and staffing is one of the crucial issues. Staffing and the cost of staffing. And I don't know how we're going to fix that particular problem up.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. Do we have any speakers against? No speakers against?
Just
Oh, sorry, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, not speaking against Mayor Kennedy, just a question as to whether the General Manager is consulting with the United Services Union about some of these issues. I'd also like to move that they be involved with if there are any significant changes to the staffing.
I'll just go put it through to the General Manager.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy, through you to Councillor Brown. Certainly any consultation in regards to staff structure or appointment of staff is consulted with our employee consultative committee and the United Services Union. I believe we have a good relationship with the USU, and we are just about to commence negotiations for the next Broken Hill Consent Award, which will commence 1 July this year. So those conversations will occur. But if I can take the opportunity just to address Councillor Aldgate's comments as well, this will form part of the budget workshop in 2022-23. Be part of the resourcing strategy that gets put in place for each 4-year delivery program. And the best way for us as a staffing group to be able to address it is actually know the key priorities of the new council, and then we can put our resources appropriately. So if it is going to be around more footpaths and roadworks is going to be a main priority, then obviously then we need to redirect resources from other areas that have been priorities in previous councils and previous years to those areas. Thanks.
Very well said, General Manager. And I, would you like to put that would you like me to ask that goes into the motion, even though the General Manager has said that he does meet with the unions? Would you like that?
Yeah.
Asked that?
Thank
Would
you.
you
Thank you,
Yep.
Mr Mayor, if that's possible. Yep.
Are you happy to do that, Councillor Aldgate?
Certainly.
The seconder? Yep. Just before we put the motion, I'd just like to say that councillors are working really good when it comes to staff, and I thank the General Manager for making his comment. We are the people that are in charge of deciding the direction that the community takes and the council takes. So it's up to each one of us councillors and me as mayor to make sure that we make sure the resources are there for the General Manager to implement those. So thank you all councillors, and thank you to the General Manager, because I really do believe we are heading in a change. We are heading for a change, and all councillors and staff will be behind that. So I would hope. So thank you. All those in favour of...
Would you mind if I just said something?
Councillor, Deputy
Just
Mayor Hickey.
in support of what Councillor Aldgate said, I find it amazing that there isn't a huge reduction somewhere along in those wages figures, because as an employer over the last 10 years, there hasn't been any significant pay rises to staff. You know, like right throughout Australia, the pay rise have been very minimal over the last 10 years. And it's just amazing that if you can drop 100 staff and still have the same wage bill, there's something nominally some there, but just in support of his, yeah.
Could we, well, you've said in the budget things, but if you could just perhaps get something, not immediately, but like not even in the next months, but just if you could get something together about, so we can have a look at what's going on. Yeah. So all those in favour of the motion? Yep, that's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 7, this is the proposed Country Women's Association mural that was planned for Argent Street. Do we have a mover? Councillor Page? Move. Councillor Chandler, happy to second that.
Can I speak on that?
I'll give first option to Councillor Page, but I'm sure, Councillor Page?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I read the report today on it, and what we need is a list of the names that are actually on the panel that look at these issues. I read through a couple of times, I couldn't find any names to say who the people were that would accept or reject any issues. So I think we need to know who those people are, and I'm sure the public would like to know as well, because it's a big issue in Broken Hill, as you know, and you're pushing the area as well, which is good to see. So
could we have those names just circulated to councillors? Thank you, General Manager. We won't need it as part of the thing, just what the committee is, what the role of the committee is, that sort of stuff. Yep.
Sorry. Comment. The committee structure is in the public art policy, which is an attachment to the report. We will circulate it, but just to make mention, there are council officers on that panel as well, and so we won't be able to disclose those staff names. It'll just be the positions.
Can I make a comment?
Just before you make a comment, Councillor Aldgate, Councillor Chandler wanted to speak. Councillor Chandler.
Yes, look, I think our public art policy should be changed. And I think that public art should be amended so that public that is not offensive or art that is not offensive to the public should be allowed to go ahead.
Councillor Page, would you like to put it in that there? Oh, just before we continue, the general manager is going to a workshop on changing those anyway. So what you'd like to see as part of that workshop is that we look at that public art that's not offensive be approved. When it's not approved, then it comes, the recommendation is from the art advisory group, not a decision. So it comes back to us.
Yes, Mr Mayor, and the reason why the Broken Hill ratepayers own this town, they own the future, and it's time they're included back into having a say about their town. There's too many people that are saying everything what should or what is going to happen. It's the ratepayers own this town and their future. They're the ones that should be having a say in everything that's happened. They're invested their money here and their future, and it's time they started to drive what's going to happen with the Broken Hill City Council.
Thank you, Councillor Page. So just
Mr Mayor, can I ask a question whether you can answer of the General Manager?
Councillor Turley. I'll just make sure we know exactly what's going on here. So it was that when we go to that workshop that one of the things that we discuss is that that all recommendations from that body come back to council for the final decision when knocking back something or approving it. Is that what it more or less was, Councillor Page?
Yes.
And you're happy to accept that, Councillor Chandler? Yes. Councillor Turley?
So through you, Mr Mayor, and you might be able to answer this, but did anybody, I note the letter that was sent to the Country Women's Association. I don't think it was Mr Whitelaw. I think it would have been Mrs Whitelaw. But did anybody follow up with a phone call to see if they received the letter? I just wonder, was there any follow up with the Country Women's Association?
I have
just
spoken
given that
to
they
them.
had, just given that they had the wrong name. I just, you know.
I have spoken to them, but I'll hand over to the General Manager to answer, but I'll answer if you can't answer.
Yeah, I don't. This Councillor Kennedy.
So yes, I did speak to the Country Women's Association and the person in charge. They were very disappointed. They spent a lot of money, virtually had the development application approved. They had raised the money. They had an artist, Amanda Johnson, to do the mural. It was knocked back because it was not multicultural enough. Now, when someone's putting in their time, their money to do something, and they were so shattered, they said they would never do anything again. They were so disappointed in council, I could not believe it. You know, this is people that are willing to take up pay out money to honour the Country Women's Association and women in general in Australia and in the bush. And we were told they were told by a group that's not elected by the people of Broken Hill that your mural's not good enough. Now, I don't know about you, but when you're putting in your time and whatever, you don't like to be told your artistic vision. It's one thing if it was offensive, I can understand them saying, no, it's offensive. But when you are painting something that they don't think is up to their standard, not good enough. So I agree with you, Councillor Page. So yes, I did speak to the Country Women's Association, and and the artist that was to do it was absolutely disgusted in how they'd been treated by not council, but by this art group we have. Council were very, very obliging, very friendly, and ultimately it was stopped because of this group of 9 people. Very disappointed.
Thank you.
Any speakers against?
No.
But you did want to make comment, Councillor Allgate?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow on from Councillor Page. I agree wholeheartedly with what Councillor Page said.
Just before we go on, if councillors are making comment, they forgo their right to speak for or against, and comments are to be kept very brief because it's not speaking for or against a motion.
I'll keep it brief. Two of the most embarrassing moments in my last 5 years with the previous term of council was the Natrapan mural and the welcome signs to Broken Hill. And I think what happened with those two issues, we don't want it repeated, but it already has been repeated.
Thank you, councillor Allgate. So no speakers against. So we'll just say what the motion is. The motion is not any decision today, but when we deal with redoing the public art policy, part of that will be for councillors to make the final decision when it comes to anything like that, as opposed to talking about that the art advisory committee will be an advisory committee, not a decision-making committee. So as long as everyone knows what we're voting on. So all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. So item 8. So item 8 is just the investment report for December 2021. Do we have a mover for that? Move councillor Boland. We have a seconder. Councillor Gallagher. Would you like to speak to that, councillor Boland?
I'll keep it very brief, Mayor Kennedy. Everything looks good and is performing as you would expect in the current environment.
Thank you, councillor Boland. Would you like to make any comments on that? No. Thank you, councillors. Any speakers against? No. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 9, this is a local leadership program. It is to do with interest to join City Power Partnership Local Leaders Program. Do we have a mover for that?
I will move that.
Councillor Boland, we have a seconder for that. Councillor Allgate. Councillor Boland, would you like to speak to that?
Reviewing the report, it looks like a very, very, very good organisation, especially in the current climate situation. Obviously, we know Broken Hill is looking to go green with minerals coming online that will be going into batteries and et cetera. And we're looking at greening the city once more. And I think this partnership, looking at renewable energy and everything related to green, basically is going to be a absolutely great partnership or a great organisation for council to be involved in.
Do we have any speakers against that? So just a quick question of the mover. So when you're saying you think we might be able to get lots of trees out of this organisation and help with Cobalt Blue?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Basically, being a part of this group will assist council in lobbying the state and federal government for assistance for mines such as Cobalt Blue. It will assist us in lobbying to green the city. It will make our green credentials look a lot better in Sydney when we go with our cap in hand and say, we need to green this city. We need to green it for the future. We need the mining industry in Broken Hill and Cobalt Blue and other mines that are coming online for rare earth minerals that go into batteries. This organisation, the City Powering Partnership Local Leaders Program, will certainly give the city the credentials we need to lobby state and federal government for the assistance we need to green the city and for a renewable future.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Any speakers against? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 10, which is the action list. Do we have a mover for that? I think Councillor Gallagher needs to take that over and just we have a mover there, Councillor Gallagher.
Yes, I'll move that way.
The seconder, Councillor Jewett. Councillor Gallagher is going to take over Councillor Nolan's job, is he?
Well, I hope not as much as that, but I'll take after what he says. It's good to see that we're moving forward, and after tonight's meeting, it will be a lot more green than amber. So it's good to see.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. So we move on to committee reports. Neil, questions taken on notice from previous council meeting. Neil, questions for the next meeting arising from items on the agenda. Any questions or things for the agenda for the next meeting from councillors? No? Just if the general manager could perhaps just, I said would give people, I'm sorry, if you'd like to respond to any things about the public question time, just briefly. And Councillor Turley, if you'd like to respond from what was said during the public question time, because we haven't got the time. So if you'd like, just you can now.
I'll take it on notice. Thank you. Because I
Count-
just didn't capture all that was said.
No
And
worries,
but
Councillor
thank
Turley.
you for the opportunity. I'll just get the transcript and understand what was said, but thank you.
So
And perhaps one of the things is you and I can have a meeting to discuss it.
no worries, Councillor Turley. Thank you.
Yeah.
General Manager.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. I might refer to Mr. Manuel, Manager Communications, just for the first item that was spoken to. Thanks.
Through you, Mayor Kennedy. Just regarding the matter raised by Ms. Barb, just regarding the webcast on the website. I'm not entirely sure what's happened there. It looks like the website perhaps rolled back to an earlier date, but I've contacted our digital officer. Everything's back up to date as we speak. So apologies for that.
Thank you. That was the only question really that there was anything to really that hadn't been answered, wasn't it? Yep. So the one thing that we will give the general manager an opportunity to speak on, because I think it's important, is the fruit fly, if you don't mind.
Yep, thanks, Mayor Kennedy. Yeah, following last council's meeting, we have approached DPIE. Unfortunately, council or Broken Hill's been moved out of the Sunraysia fruit zone, which is obviously why there's not that direct response anymore. So we have written to the department about their ongoing management plans, and we will contact Landcare to gain their support information while we work with DPIE in relation to that. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. I think that's just so it shows you that with the right people asking the right questions, we can get things done. So thank you very much for following that up. Before we move into, we're moving into confidential matters. So just to let the community know that we will, you will have to leave the room for a little while, and it could take 10 or 15 minutes, and the motion is then read out if you come back in. But we are moving into confidential session. If we could have a mover.
Move that way.
Move Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Page. All those in favour? Carried. Councillor Turley, carried unanimously? Yep, carried unanimously.